So my name is Rachel Honeycutt. I'm doing my project 3 on how the book shows that women had little or no power in Afghan society in the period that's covered in the book, and that they were mere objects in the eyes of men. I chose this one because it seems like it plays out more and more in the book than the other one, talking about how the women had power. I only see really one example of that, and that's when Jalil's wives didn't want Miriam. They didn't want anything to do with Miriam, and so they just suggested or wanted her to go marry Rashid. And that's really the only kind of power I see that the women have in this book, unless I missed the spot. But so 1,000 Splendid Suns is set in Afghanistan, and it's from the early 1960s to the early 2000s, like 2004-ish. It talks about a young girl named Miriam. She grows up outside of a town called Herat. It's a small city in Afghanistan. And Miriam has complicated feelings about her parents right now because her mom is very spiteful and stubborn, but at the same time her father doesn't really want anything to do with her. She only sees her father once a week. Her father has 3 wives, and the wives have had many babies, and so she has half siblings there, but she is stuck at home with her mom, and who is stubborn and who she says is spiteful. So Miriam takes off one night on her birthday and wants to go and see her father and see a movie with him for her birthday. And I don't know if in this relationship her dad just doesn't want to see her, or the wives don't want her to see, or want him to see her. But as Miriam grows up, Miriam goes and sees her dad after her dad agrees to see a movie with her, and he doesn't show up for the movie. And so Miriam walks to his house anyways and goes and sees him, or tries to see him, but he won't let her in, so she sleeps on the street, and his chauffeur takes her home the next morning, and she goes in to find that her mom has committed suicide. So now Miriam is taken to her father's house after the funeral and has to live there now. So Jalil's wife wants nothing to do with Miriam. So they force her to marry Rashid, which is a widowed shoemaker. And so Rashid, he had a son before, and Rashid treats Miriam pretty decent until she can't bear a son. She can't get pregnant, or she gets pregnant, but she has a bunch of miscarriages, and that's when their relationship starts to get really sketchy and starts to get abusive, because Rashid really wants somebody to have a baby with to replace the son that he had. So that's that situation. So to go along with this argument, I would say that Rashid really takes advantage of Miriam and Layla, who he marries later on to. He really takes advantage of both of them, and he just treats them like, if you can't give me a son, then I'm not gonna want anything to do with you or the daughters. He's very abusive to both of them. Doesn't really care for them. It is arranged marriages, but they just don't care anything about one another. But in 2004, kind of going along with our notes, in 2004 there was a constitution put into place in Afghanistan which empowered a lot of women and gave them more rights than they had. So this book was placed in the 1960s. So it did come a long way in 40-ish years. And so that's all I have to say.